So hello again, everyone. Charles Banfield here with another Karate Canucks conversation. And this time I'm probably visibly excited to be joined by two gentlemen who rank amongst the top martial artists in the world and whose legacies will forever be linked to one another. And these two gentlemen are, if you don't recognize them already, Hanshi John Therien and the one and only, the champion, the Iceman, Jean-Yves Theriault. So I've had the pleasure of having Hanshi Therien as a guest on this podcast back in January of 2021. And I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to speak to him again. And as many are aware, Hanshi Therien is a world-renowned practitioner and teacher of Japanese Jiu-Jutsu. He's a very successful business owner, promoter, and co-founder of the World Kobudo Federation. And on top of all that, he's the executive director of the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame. And he's also the longtime mentor manager of our other guest, Mr. Jean-Yves, the Iceman Theriault, who is a 23-time world kickboxing champion. And I have to say, a personal hero of mine and thousands of others across Canada and around the world. And in fact, I recently found a video where UFC star Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and his father paid homage to the Iceman in a video reviewing, I think it was a front kick lunge punch combination that he very often used to great effect in the ring. And they were very complimentary to the skill of both the champ and also of the champ's brother, Vic. Who's going to be joining him as an inductee in the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame later this year. So the champ has earned so many accolades. It would take me basically the entirety of our allotted time to list them all. And this speaks to the caliber of the athlete and competitor that he is. In a fighting career that spanned from 1976 to, I believe, 1995, he had 76 fights and amassed a record of 69 wins, including 61 by knockout, 6 losses and 1 draw. And this is more impressive when you consider the quality of the competition he faced throughout his career. So names like Don the Dragon Wilson, Ernesto Hoost, Rob Kaman, Rodney Batiste, Kerry Roop, Bob Thunder Thurman, Mark Longo, Rick Roufus, and so many others. And like how Sensei Doug Rogers put Canada on the map for judo and Sensei Wally Slokey for karate and George Chuvalo for boxing, the name Jean-Yves Theriault is synonymous with Canadian kickboxing.
Thank you.
So it's difficult for me to express how much of a pleasure it is to have you both as guests on the Karate Canucks podcast. So thank you for agreeing to spend some time with me today, especially given your extremely busy schedules. So now I have about 1 million questions that I could ask about your backgrounds and so on, but I know this has been covered repeatedly in other interviews, including on the podcast hosted by my friends at Punch Kick Choke Chat. So my goal today is not to replicate these interviews and as much as possible to try and cover some new ground. So what I'd like to explore, if I may, is not so much what you did collectively and individually, but why you did what you did and how it was achieved. So I don't know if this will be a different type of interview for you or not, but we'll see how it all goes. So I'm going to start with putting Hanshi Therien on the hot seat, and I'll ask you if you can share what prompted you to venture down the jiu-jitsu path in your martial arts journey, as opposed to the other options that were available to you at the time?
Well, it was very simple. I had a lot of friends in martial arts, and they were in karate at the time with André Langelier in Ottawa. And now we're looking back at the mid-'60s, roughly. And they were doing really good. They were really well. It was a tough schools. It was a great school. And one day, I think I'm 14 years old, I see a little sign about 8 by 10 done by hand and posted in the window of the Langelier Karate School. And it says, Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense classes, Tuesday night, whatever it was. and with George Sylvain. And George Sylvain was a good karate man. He was in judo to brown belt. He was a very good jiu-jitsu man. So I called, and it was very, very expensive. It was $25 for 3 months of training. So I borrowed some money, and I went to see him, and it was the third floor. And it was an old building, and the steps would creak, when you walk, crack, and I'm scared. I mean, I'm 14 years old, and I walked in, and I see this big, tough guy sitting behind a small desk. And he says, "Yeah, can I help you, kid?" I go, "Oh, man, I'm at the run." I said, "No." He said, "No, come here. So I tell him, "Well, I saw your sign." And he said, "Okay, you can start Tuesday," or whatever it was. And I went there and I did one class. But I had done a little bit of judo up to yellow belt before. Mm-hmm. And I was training with my friends on the weekend in karate, and they were showing me how to punch, kick, and we did a lot of fighting. I was not too good in kata and never was, and I don't think I would ever be. But I love kata. So anyhow, I did one class and I went, "Wow, this is for me." And so I kept training. There was 8 people on the mat. There was Mr. Sylvain and 7 people. And I was one of those 7. Maybe there was 9, but it was under 10 people. And we started from there. And the magic of the martial arts came and hit me right in the heart. And I just loved it. And I kept going. And one day I became a yellow belt. Oh, wow. I thought I had accomplished something unbelievable. And the rest is keep on keeping on. And the passion and the love of martial arts grew from that day on since 60 some years now. So it's good.
So jiu-jitsu is what struck you, said, in the heart, right? It wasn't Sensei Sylvain personality, whichever that kept you going?
No. Well, let me explain something. George Sylvain would show you're an accomplished black belt, how to tie your belt, and you would be impressed. You would be amazed. He had that ability as a speaker and as a teacher. Big voice, and we're going to do it this way, and this is something for your consideration, son. But he was a fantastic teacher. I was lucky. I hit a good school, a good teacher at the bottom, starting out. But the technique of jiu-jitsu, see, I did a bit of judo, and I did train in some karate with some friends. But when you combine them together, well, you've got kicks, punch, break falls, throws, and self-defense techniques. Then you add to that some controlling techniques, some strangulation. I loved it. It was like a beautiful homemade soup. Everything was in it,
So it hit all the right notes for you.
It did. It honestly did, and still to this day, it does.
Yeah, excellent. And so for you, Champ, if my research is correct, your brothers, one of your, or maybe a couple of your brothers, kind of led you to Hanshi's club, and you started training there. And is that? Can you reflect on the story?
Absolutely. Your research is good. My brother Vic and a friend, we went to the club. But prior to that, what sort of prompted me to go to martial arts or any sort of self-defense, whether it was boxing or judo or wrestling or anything, and I go to high school in grade 9, and I see some school fights and stuff like that, and I'm always a little bit sort of wondering, how would I fare? Mm-hmm. And I think, in every kid's life, that may be a thought at one point or another. And it just sort of, that thought was, constantly in my head. So I guess I was seeing a lot of fights, and we decided, Vic and I and my brother and my friend Andre, we decided we were going to go to do martial arts. So what are we doing? Well, karate. We had a friend that did karate, and that's okay. We could do karate, and maybe Taekwondo. Taekwondo was, too much stretching, too much kicks, at least at that point, 16, 17 years old. And we come across this word. I don't really know. I forget where we saw it, but I couldn't pronounce it, nor could Vic or my brother. And that sort of intrigued me. So what is this? And so we went to the school, and Mr. Therien was saying something about having been lucky and hitting the right notes right off the bat. I don't know that he was luckier than I was. I mean, I've been with Hanshi John for 50 years, over 50 years. And many times I've been asked to, go to the United States or go to Europe and this and that. And I'm in the right place. I'm in the right place with this man. And anyways, we went to, started doing jiu-jitsu, and I found that I had some limited but still natural abilities. Flexibility was better than I thought. I had a competitive edge that was never really brought forward at that point, and so that was sort of interesting for me. And I did jiu-jitsu until I was yellow belt or orange belt, and then I took a break, maybe for school or something. I forget what it was, and then I'm missing this. So I went back. I did jiu-jitsu until I hit a brown belt or a blue belt or brown belt, and then there's Mr. Sylvain, who shows up with kickboxing. Well, I was a little bit more interested in competition at that time, and I did karate tournaments, and I was always getting disqualified all the time, and would drive 8 or 10 hours, and one punch or one kick, and not enough control, you're disqualified. So I thought, well, if I'm going to hit somebody, I might as well get into a sport so I was thinking about going to boxing, in fact, and that's when destiny was unfolding itself. I can guarantee you that. Mr. Sylvain showed up. He wanted some volunteers from Hanshi's class or Hanshi's school at the time, and I said, I'll do it, and the path was laid out for me, and here I am.
So it was fated, I guess. You had no choice. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a destiny. I met a lot of people over the course of the time that I've been involved in martial arts, and they come into your life and they provide something for you. This is the way I look at life. They provide something for you, and for that part of your journey, that was supposed to be there. My trainer, God bless him, he died a couple of years ago, but he was the type of guy that believed so much in me that he would have put me against King Kong and his brother. And no, you'll do fine. He was thinking of getting a fight with Evander Holyfield at one point. I said, "Gee, if I can kick, maybe, but I don't think I want to box with this monster." In any event, I was lucky to get these people in my life. Guy, Hanshi, another one of my trainers, Mark, and evidently Vic. I mean, even if we're biological brothers, Vic lends himself to martial arts like nobody else does. He's got a passion for this. It's crazy. It's crazy. And he had a good way of reading the opponents, and both of us would sort of talk about strategy, about fighting one particular guy. Just between him and I, it wasn't about, wasn't with the rest of the camp. It's just, champ, I think this is the best way for you to fight him. You look at him, he's got, his elbows are high, whatever. And he was always right. He was always right. So and for that, I mean, I don't think I say it enough, but I'm superbly grateful for the team that I had. And I'll have in my heart for the rest of my life, really.
Yeah. It's too bad the Holyfield fight didn't work out. We've been able to point out that he's got a weakness in his ears or whichever. But okay, no, this is great. So this is kind of sets the stage as to what got you on your path and why you, I guess, chose the path that you ultimately chose. What would you attribute to, you're both highly successful, in your respective vocations, right? As either as a businessmen or builders of organizations or promoters or athletes. What would you attribute, and this is for both of you, what would you attribute your success to your success as professional martial arts competitors, teachers, promoters, and so on? Would it be the mentors? Would it be or would it be a combination?
I think in your life you do have, heroes, in whatever form they may take, and so you want to try and provide something, leave something in your legacy that may have people looking at you and say, "Wow, I want to be like him," or "He did it the right way," or what have you. Me personally, I studied sort of unofficially. I studied sports psychology, and I came to understand that the way that I was conducting myself, I was hitting the right notes according to the psychologist or sports psychologist. So I contacted Dr. Theriault in Ottawa, and he interviewed me for an hour, and I was quite amazed at the questions that he was asking, because the answers were, in my mind, well, I can't really talk to anybody about this because there's nobody that would probably understand or talk about this subject before. And he was asking the same questions. I thought, wow. And at the time, he was doing some research. And so, you come to understand that, first of all, my commitment. If I'm going to do this, do it right. And after the first fight that I had, which was a first round knockout, only because the other guy was more tired than I was. If I'm going to do this, I have to do it right. And so my focus, my self criticism, everything sort of fell into place. And I think that I think I can speak for a lot of people that have been in martial arts for a long time. There's a passion that you don't really know that you had, and all of a sudden there's something that you can apply that passion to, and that's, at least to me, that's how that sort of worked for me.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So Hanshi, how about for you? What would you attribute your success and your drive?
It's a mixed bag. It's like I never opened a school and started to teach to make money and to make a profession out of it and a business. It was because I enjoyed training, and I developed. I became a good teacher because I like to teach. I like to work with people. I like to produce some. And I did 3 tournaments as a brown belt. I won 1, placed second in 2, or I won 2, placed second in 1, or something like that. But I realized there and then that I would never be the world champion. I would never be. I think I'd be good, above average, but never a world champion. But then I had students who were winning a lot. So I figured, well, hey, I could be a hell of a coach. So being a coach, the passion of martial arts, a little bit crazy around the edge as far as gambling, to find a place where you're going to put some mats down, you're going to be teaching. It opened up another avenue for me to express myself without knowing I was expressing myself. I was filling, Jean-Yves spoke about a journey. I was filling that part of my journey as I'm moving along. I went to high school, graduated, went to work in a printing company as a printing estimator, and that's cost and figures and numbers, and I'm very good with that. And then at some point, I started to teach on April 1st, 1968, and somewhere in October and November, that company made a switch. They put me somewhere else. I quit. And I said, well, I'm going to try to do this. But it was a bit natural for me to promote the school, to promote some people, and to talk about what I love. I mean, God knows I can talk and sometimes too much, and I put all of that together, and that's what sort of kept me there. But my best goal is when you have somebody like Jean-Yves Theriault, who became 23 times world kickboxing champion, world renowned, an icon. He's a GOAT, greatest of all time. And he is unbelievable. That takes a lot of work to work with them to get there. But it's never been work. It's like there's salt and pepper, and you put the two of them on the table. Maybe you'll use salt and you won't use pepper tonight, or tomorrow you'll use pepper and not the salt. So Jean-Yves and I had that kind of relationship. But under him, there was a lot of other great students who would never become the Iceman in kickboxing, but some of them were very good in point fighting. We talk about Vic. There was Conroy Nelson. There was Norm Beauchamp. There was a lot of guys that won grand champs in major tournaments, not the Saturday afternoon 1-2 tournament. These were big time tournament. So we were a team, and I had as much pleasure as working with somebody that did not have too much talent, and that person made yellow belt. Wow, the look on their face was unbelievable. They had accomplished something, and I made a difference in their lives by helping them out. So all of that put together is what kept me there. But then I remember when Jean-Yves was about 20 years old, 21 years old, and I did the same for me. So the analogy here goes two-way street. Jean-Yves says, I think I'm going to do this full time and see how far I can go with it. He was maybe ranked in Canada at the time, and that was about it. So he put all his eggs in the same basket, which was kickboxing. He never cheated. He trained hard, proper food, proper sacrifices, and everything else. Well, we got the result. Well, for me, I put all my eggs in the jiu-jitsu basket to open a school and to make it work. And I'll tell you, there was a lot of nights, like around the 25th of the month, I would be up all night, and I had two small boys, and I'd look at them sleep, and I'd say, okay, I got to pay my rent. I got to pay for the dojo. I got to pay my mortgage. How the hell am I going to do that? It's the 25th of the month, and I'm maybe halfway there. Something would come. Things would get done. It was never about the money. It was about what we did. It was about, and we had a brotherhood and a family from the Theriault Jiu-Jitsu group. When Jean-Yves fought Montreal on a Tuesday night, we had 3 busloads of people from the club coming up right after work, jumping in a bus, going to the fights, coming back around midnight, 1 in the morning, going to work the next day. Because one of our buddies, one of our family member, one of our friends was doing his thing and his magic in the ring in Montreal, and we wanted to be there. When the other guys were training for their black belts, Jean-Yves was there, and helping them out. So to tell you that this one button that I pushed that made all of this happen for me, no, you learn as you go along, and now, but I'll tell you that it's not easy. Looking back, I look at what I had to do to accomplish where I am. Either I was lucky, but I always listened to a lot of people of their success, and you learn from that. And then I realized that I had a natural ability as a promoter, for example, but you do it to put the right people there, not for the ego. And then and this is good. So when Jean-Yves retired, he said, what am I going to do? I said, stick by me. I'll find you a job. And I promised him I'll find him a job. Maybe next week, Jean-Yves, it's coming soon, or next month, but we've been together for 50 years. I made a promoter out of him. He became a great coach. He produced world champions that was inside of him. But he says, no, I can't promote this. Yes, you can. Let me help you. Today, if he's not the best promoter for kickboxing in the country, he's one of the best promoters in the country. So together, one helped the other, and here we are. And we're on the famous show of Charles Banfield. It's cool,
Yes,
man.
The infamous show. Yeah. So actually, it's a good segue, and I liked your answer there. Some of the items that you brought up kind of lead to the next question I was going to ask, which is, if you're thinking back on your careers and just curious, how much of the success do you think was due to external factors or pressures, like you were talking about, looking at your sons asleep and worrying about the mortgage and, that kind of thing? How much of it was due to that versus how much of it was due to an internal personal drive? And again, this is for both of you.
I'll let Jean-Yves go first, and I'll answer.
Well, there, in a career like mine, you really don't go into it consciously. It just sort of happens. You go from one fight to the next and the next and the next. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in a position where this next fight can propel you, to a higher level. One of the things that I think is important for people to understand is that when we go into a career like this in professional sports or whatever it may be, there's a lot of times that we don't really realize that there is a price to pay, and we're going to pay it. And you come to a point in your life where somebody is going to ask you, is there anything that you regret? And so, of course, this brought me to this particular point. There are things that I've done in the past that may have been entirely selfish. I'm thinking about my career, but subconsciously, I'm thinking about providing a good living for my children, my family, my children. I do things for them subconsciously. This is what drives me. Of course, at the end of the day, some of the things that happen, you sort of regret. But I don't regret, because this is where I'm at this particular point in my life, and I like myself. I like where I am. I like the journey that I travel. I love the people that I hang out with. My friends are very, very, very important. Very important. My family, second to none. We know, thousands and thousands of people. But the friends, the really, really, really close friends and family, I mean, you die for them. And so, there are things that you do along the journey that you were set forward on. You have really no understanding of where you're going. Some of it, obviously, you have to be conscious of it, because if you're not a good businessman, you're not going to succeed. But there are things that just, this is where you're supposed to, this is the direction that you should be going in. And for some reason, you're going to turn right instead of left. And this is where, for me, this is where I landed. I landed in the place at this particular time in my life where I'm happy what I did. Yeah.
Hanshi, any thoughts to add?
Yeah. A little bit like Jean-Yves mentioned, like my family what was important for my family was to have a roof over their heads, was to have food on the table, and dress them up, send them to school, help them out. And that was important. But what I was the most scared was to close the dojo, because I didn't have any money, because I couldn't pay the rent, because the owner would come in, padlock the front door. That scared me to work harder. I always work hard, but I work a little bit harder to make sure that never happens. Like when you open a school, you teach, you clean the school, you clean the washroom, the toilets, the showers, if you have any, you do the marketing, you do everything, because you want that school to stay open. For me, if I would have had a choice to sell my house and bring my family in a smaller venue, if you want to, and keep the school open, I would have done that. But I would not sacrifice my family for the dojo. That's not what I'm saying. But but the school, and for one reason, it's the love and passion of the martial arts. But my school, my students were also my family. That was my martial arts family. I have 5 siblings, 5. And no matter where I go, if people of a certain age have been involved in martial arts or have known me a few years ago, 9 times out of 10, they will say, how's Jean-Yves doing? 9 times out of 10. It's a TNT, Theriault, Therien, and it's fused together. And that is more important than anything in the life of success because of our friendship. Now, one of my brother was a builder. Financially, he did extremely well. And I have 2 other brothers, very smart. They have great jobs. You know, my 2 sisters, the same. And so I love them dearly. And I meet with my sibling, and it's the same thing. And Jean-Yves has a bunch of brothers. He'll talk to you about that. But together, the reason that all of this happened is because of the brotherhood and the family atmosphere in my school. And when I said family atmosphere, if the guy screwed up, man, they paid the price with me. They really paid the price. And I've thrown a few out, and I've slapped a few around because they needed that, because they did things to hurt the reputation of our school. And I'm not talking about losing a tournament. You know, that's not what I mean. So today, I go back. I have 2 wonderful boys. They're around 50 years. One's 52, one's 49. I've got 6 grandkids. And I told my son, though, one has no kids, cannot have children. And the one with 6 kids, I said, how the hell do you do this, Dan? I said, you got 6 kids and they're high-level athletes, you know? And he said, hey, I learned that from you because you always took care of us. So sometimes we're hard on ourselves because we might have said, well, this weekend I can't because I'm going to do that. So the family part of my dojo, what I consider family, and I meet people today or on Facebook or online, and they say, because of you, I succeeded there. Because of you, my life got a little bit better. And thank you for all you've done. And we got 3 and 4 generations training at some of the Therien schools. Wow. Life is not easy, but it's beautiful. So there you go.
Yeah. So it's almost like the dojo was like another child, you know, like it kind of grew into, another...
I'm a hockey fan. And when there was 6 teams, Montreal Canadian, I'm French Canadian, Catholic, Montreal, I would live in Ottawa, but the Montreal Canadian was our team, right? You go to the Montreal Forum, the old player, the ones that are retired, right? They have a special room for them with food and a bar, and they could come to every game. They can bring their spouse. At times, they can bring a friend. So they come for a bite to eat, have a couple of beers, and watch the game because they're part of the Montreal Canadian family. Well, Japanese Jiu-Jutsu and kickboxing, we're not the Montreal Canadian. We're not that big. We have not won 24 Stanley Cup. Well, wait a minute. We won 23 World Kickboxing Champion, so it's pretty close. And together, the boys come and see us. We will do this big event coming up in November, Capital Conquest. There's kickboxing, there's the Hall of Fame, there's the training, there's the show. A lot of our former brothers and sisters from the martial arts will come in. They don't train anymore, but they'll come in and bring you a hug and a cheer and a smile. And they want to see the champ do his thing. You need help, champ? Yeah, they're all there to help out. So that's our family. And that to me is the most important thing that kept me going.
So I'm curious, and I don't know, you've probably been asked this question, both of you have probably been asked this question a million times, but I have not heard it answered or asked or answered. The question is, if you didn't have the careers that you did, what do you think you would have done instead?
Well, for me, it's easy. I would have been a phys ed teacher, but that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
in the form of kickboxing, but that's what I do. And so, for whatever reason, my reason for being here is to pass it forward. I wanted to be, actually, when I was a kid, I wanted to either be a fireman or a cowboy. And I understood that cowboys weren't making a lot of money. So, and the fireman, and so, but life took a bit of a curve, and I started working and stuff like that. But I would have wound up teaching something.
So you were always going to be a teacher, regardless.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I just love, I'm very lucky. I have a lot of very, very good people around me, obviously, including Hanshi Therien, Cesar Bukowski and SAE, and there's Norm and Bernie and a whole bunch of people at the Therien School. And I look at them, their methodology on how they teach, the way that they conduct themselves around their students, the way that they sort of live the passion that we both share. And I'm always fascinated when I get to an event like we're going to be doing in a couple of months. I look at people and I'm just fascinated by the evidence that the passion that we have is there. It's alive. And so and I learn from everybody. I look at people. I ask questions, and I put it in a certain way that it becomes mine to some degree. But I just love teaching. Yeah.
Okay, Hanshi, how about you? What do you?
It would have. Well,
you would have been in the printing industry, no?
No, I don't. No, printing industry. But look, I went to an academic school, and they've asked me politely to leave. And I went to a technical school, and as Jean-Yves, I have the worst technical guys with any tools that you want. My wife has better knowledge and IQ of fixing things than I do. So it would not have been that line. But I'm a people person, and I think I'm a damn good one. I was if I look outside of martial arts, what I've done over the years, I was the chair of the Vanier BIA. Vanier is east of Ottawa, a little low-income French-Canadian place. A lot of great people. Some people say it's a tough place. I think it's a beautiful place. My school was there. So I was, and at the BIA, being the chair for 8 years, is that you work with all the professionals and the business people, but you work with the community. You work with the association in the community, with the people, and with the politicians, the police, and everything else. And I love helping people. I love taking charge of things and making it happen so that we are happy. And I love to make people happy. So it would have had to be that route. And unfortunately, that route sometimes doesn't pay your bills. Like the Beatles, great friends, they have a song that says, "Your kisses give me a thrill, but your kisses don't pay my bills." So I'd have to find something else. So maybe I would have been in sales. I think that would have been good. It would have had to be something that I would have loved, would have had to be something working with people. I love music, but I know, again, it's like tools, so I couldn't be a musician. I think I'm a pretty good singer in the shower. My wife said no. And so that goes, that notion of, say, I could have made that career. So my career would have had to be to work with people and to help out in some ways and hopefully earn a living and enjoy life from there. That's what I think I would have done. Maybe teaching is helping also, so it'll be along those routes.
Very good. So do you think, though, if you had not met each other, do you think you would have still followed your respective career paths? Like Hanshi, you were already a business owner and a teacher and so on, but do you think you would have gotten into promotion of events and so on?
Yes, I think so, because it's in me to promote. Promotion for me is like, it's as easy as Jean-Yves Theriault fighting an average guy in the ring. You know, like average guy, Jean-Yves would last a round or two, max. And for me, that's my strong points. And that's why TNT became so powerful. I know my place. I know what I have to do. I never, ever had to tell Jean-Yves Theriault, come on, man, you got to get to the gym and train. You got to come to the gym. He knew his job and he did it well. I managed his career as best as I could. And then you learn as you go along. But promoting is something I do naturally. Well, I got to share this because it's great for the champ, for people to know that. And the way my vision goes with things and the way that I've got the pulse of certain things. So I see my fighters when they start to get better. Well, you got to find an opponent that is better, because if you fight bums, you're going to become a bum. So you got to fight guys like you opened up and saying all the great people that Jean-Yves stepped in the ring with. And my God, they were great. So 1 year, I told Jean-Yves, I said, stay close, stay tuned up. You're going to be busy this year. You're ready for the big times. Well, what do you mean? You're ready to fight more. 13 pro fights in 12 months. 13 pro fights in 12 months does not happen to anybody. And he did that. All right. And won 13 of them. Now, at the end of that year, the Iceman showed up in a big, big way. It was maybe the Ice Cube before, but then the Iceman showed up. He knew his craft so well. And the worst thing for a fighter, for example, is to train, never fight. You get stale mentally, you get bored. In your heart, you don't want it no more, you know. But when you have a fight, because every time you have a fight and you step in the ring, there's only you and the other guy. And you better be ready, because I certainly hope that the other guy, and you own the title. So the guy in the other corner, what does he want? He wants your title. So all of that. So in promotion, Jean-Yves, I'm going to tell him about the B&B agreement. We had that with Jean-Yves, B&B. B, I booked the fighter. B, Jean-Yves beats him up. And we understood that. And my God, did we have a beautiful, beautiful 20 years like that. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, champ, do you think you would have become the champ without Hanshi Therien at the helm? Or?
Well, I'll tell you, had I never met him, I probably would have gotten into martial arts, probably would have gotten into competitive martial arts. But to say that I could have become a champion or a dominant force in it, I'm really not sure about that. I'm asked often, if you were young in this particular area, would you go into the UFCs? Well, probably I would. As an older guy, I can tell you honestly, I wouldn't touch that with 10-foot pole. I mean, these guys are amazing. They're well-rounded. They're athletic, and so on and so forth. So, that competitive thing that we talked about earlier, I would have probably gone with that. In what direction? Maybe martial arts, maybe obviously in sports somewhere. But to tell you that assuredly that I would have become champion or a dominant force, I'm not ready to say that. I attribute the relationship that we had, Mr. Therien, my trainer Guy, and myself, or the triangle. That was part of my success. That's why I was successful, because of the forces that were with me. Obviously, everybody knows Mr. Therien, and great promoter, great motivator, an amazingly superb friend. And Guy was about the same thing in his field. And so I was blessed, man. I mean, I was blessed. I was, and I always going to say this. I can attribute my success in part to those guys, for sure.
question, actually, this is a good segue into this question. And so I received a note from Sensei Randy Dauphin today, because I told him that I was going to have both you guys on this on my podcast finally. And I said, "Are there any questions you'd like me to ask?" And he his question was, and it's for both of you guys. What do you think is the cornerstone of your lifelong relationship?
To me, first, honesty. Mr. Therien was always honest with me and I with him, and we understood this is it. There's no hidden agenda here. This is what it is, champ. It's in your hands. What do you want to do with this? Even before I was champion, and I can see this, sort of characteristic with everybody that he deals with. I mean, this is amazing, and he deals with, well, too many people to count, and he's completely honest with his feelings, with his words, with his actions, and you can't not trust a man like that. And to me, I mean, I trusted Mr. Therien with the lives of my children. When you think about it, because he permitted me to make a living for myself and for my family by managing it properly, and so we're completely and always forthright and honest with each other, and that to me is an absolute essential in any sort of relationship, to tell the truth.
Yeah, it's a foundation of trust, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think I could add too much to that, because Jean-Yves and I, there's that trust, there's that love for one another as far as being honest. Honesty and respect is the main thing. When Jean-Yves is fighting and all the spotlight's on him, he wins the fight, and there's 20 people from the media and they've got a huddle. I go back. It's not about me. It's about him, right? And then there's another time it's about me. So Jean-Yves is there, and he'll take a little sidestep. And so we respect each other. There's a lot of love for one another, but there's a lot of good times too. Like Jean-Yves Theriault and I, we laughed so many times together. We've traveled. We just did a beautiful trip with our wives there in Europe. We also cried together because we lost some close friends. And when life shines, it's nice and it's easy to be friends with everybody. But when the lights doesn't shine and you've got some issues, or you lost somebody close to you, he's he's the first guy I'm going to go to and say, "Hey, champ, I got to talk to you." And somehow we solve it. Jean-Yves lives 15 minutes. Our homes are 15 minutes apart. So it's, I'll give you an example. I tell my wife, it's Thursday night around 10 o'clock. I said, "Hey, let's call Jean-Yves and Leslie." And we say, "So what are you guys doing tomorrow night?" "Nothing. Come over." First thing you know, well, there's food, there's good wines, but there's tons of stories, laughters, and everything else. And that's what you call a BFF, my best friend forever, and that's Jean-Yves Theriault. And no two ways about it. I hope to live to be 100 years old, and Jean-Yves got a mission on that day to be the MC. But if I pass away tomorrow, I want him to know that. And I tell him all the time, "Love you, champ. Nice to see you," because it's from the heart. Yeah. So, and that has never changed.
Yeah, I as an older athlete, I sort of gave up on my routine, 500 sit-ups and stuff like that. I just call John, and he makes me laugh so much that my stomach stays hard all the
time. We have similar tastes for things, eh? We like good food, great food, as a matter of fact, and good wine. we can't have the best wine and the best food all the time, but we always have good food and good wine. But one thing we always have is a good time.
Good
always.
time.
So here's another question for both of you. Given that you both have a traditional martial arts background, what role does showmanship play in the professional fighting business, and how do you square this with the values of traditional martial arts?
Let me go first, okay? Because Jean-Yves can be modest at times. But in the showmanship of martial arts has changed unbelievable in 50 years and some of it is for the better, and some of the athletes are a lot better than all of us put together in my days. But then there was no showmanship in our days. But I see kids today do things that's, oh my God, it's unbelievable. Except where you can't be a showmanship is in the fight game. I'd like to see a guy who's going to start dancing and play some music and do backflips in a kickboxing fight or MMA fight. They're going to hand him his butt, in no time. So at that part, it does not fit. In the part of jiu-jitsu that I teach, it has evolved so much. There is so many new techniques. There's a Frenchman named Alain Sailly from France who is with Jean-Yves, Alain Sailly, and Cesar Burkowski and I. It's a quatuor, fantastic, good friends. But that guy is a magician. You should see the way he moves on the mat and the way he puts things together, and you think it's showmanship, but he can make it work, right? But it is so beautiful to watch. It's like the grace of ballet, all right, with the power of kickboxing or Kyokushinkai kicks and punches, and he moves extremely natural. I can't do what he does, but I like to see it because it's good. And some of the techniques, when I trained with him, I picked up certain things that I would not have done 40 years ago. But you know what? At my age now, I can do it. And I'm not talking about backflips. I can't do those, right? But I could go from something. I come from a school that was hard. It was blow, throw, blow. Now I could zigzag, and now I can lock them up and do a little bit of that. But today, martial arts brings something different than in my days, and it's mentally. And it's respect, and it's confidence where we didn't have it. I went to the dojo sometimes when I was a teenager, and I knew I was going to get really a hard night. It's going to be tough. Today, the kids do martial arts and they love it. And they go back to their family and they go back to school and they've learned something. They are more confident. Maybe on the street fight, maybe they'll never be the Iceman, but they can be the confident kid, the confident man, and they move extremely well. And I'm going to say this, every school from grade 1 to grade 8 should have martial arts classes at least once or twice a week for 8 years. And when those kids go to high school and they're 13 years old, they'll be more confident, they'll achieve better things academically. They will also be more respectful for everybody. Well, less people will be sick because they'll be in good health. My God, martial artists today brought that. And that alone, I have to bow to them because they did a much better job than I did. So that's my take on today.
Excellent. And Champ, how about you? One of my favorite story, and I think I've seen this somewhere on some old footage. When you were fighting or about to fight Thunder Thurman, and you made some crack about him, Thunder just being a bunch of noise and stuff like that. So there's that showmanship, a little bit of bravado and stuff like that. Was that a natural part of you, or did you have to bring that out?
Well, yeah, when we have press conferences and they're sort of expecting something to happen that will try to sell tickets. As simple as that. And we're talking about professional sports here. Sometimes the promoter will set up a scenario that will get the papers to write about it the following day. And then, when you're in on it, it's fun. It's great. When you're not in on it, it's not that much fun. But, I think as a professional athlete, the influence that I had was a little bit old school, where, a team of hockey players would present themselves at a press conference or an event wearing, tie, a suit and tie. And they would conduct themselves in such a manner that back then it was great. For today, it was boring. And so you get the press conferences. I mean, Conor McGregor, 4 press conferences that are sold out before he fought Mayweather, and the disrespect and the foul language and stuff like that, it's now acceptable. And I'm a little bit against it, because there are children in the martial arts school that we try to influence to have a good conduct at home. Even when you talk to yourself, kids, you don't want to say, well, I'm not good at this. You have to police your own language, let alone when you're in a crowd. And so when you see a professional athletes that are conducting themselves in that manner, me personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but I understand the promotion. Where it does bug me is that when it spills into the schoolyards and such like that. That's I'm a little bit extreme, maybe a little bit old school in that sense. But I conduct myself in a professional manner, in a respectful manner, even to my children, to the children in our school. And I talk to them about, respecting each other, and they bow before they do a technique, and they bow often on the mat, and, try to influence them. And hopefully the parents they're okay with that. So, professional showmanship is one thing. Keeping it in the lines, it's a little hard. You want to sell tickets, you have to go to the extreme side. There are amazingly good, and probably to our detriment, there are amazingly good martial artists all over the world. And so we see it, and we see it, and we see it, and we see it. And when you have somebody who's good, but he's a loudmouth, and he or she is a loudmouth, and obnoxious behavior and stuff like that, well, he or she's going to get the attention. And that's the way it is nowadays. Yeah. But amateur sports, and John and I promote amateur sports. Our training camp at the Capital Conquest in November, it's amateur sport. The kickboxing is amateurs. We try to keep that in the straight and narrow, and hopefully influence the children or even the crowds. I mean, the crowds are boisterous and they're loud and stuff like that, but they're respectful. And that's what really, for me anyways, that's what's important, is to, you can be as boisterous and as loud and as, scream. You have the permission to scream and stuff like that, but be respectful.
Yeah. And that's how it squares with the traditional, I guess, mentality or the traditional values.
I'm old school, and I can't go back. I mean, I can't change anything like that. I wouldn't. I mean, I like myself. I said that a couple of times, right?
There's no shame in that. So last question before we wrap up, just for Sensei Therien. And again, so this is another final question, I guess, of the day. I wish we had much more time, because like I said, I have a million questions I want to ask, but I'm trying to keep it on the straight and narrow as much as I can. Question for both of you, as two gentlemen who have inspired so many people over the years. What or who inspires you?
For me, it's passion. I was talking to a young lady the other day who's writing I think she's writing the digital magazine for Capital Conquest. And she was talking about, she had essentially asked the same question. I said, passion. So, okay, that's something that, people throw around a lot. And I said, I'm passionate about what I do, but I also enjoy and recognize people who are passionate about what they do. I'm not a fan of opera singing, but I'm a big fan of Pavarotti, because he sweated so much. He was, he put his heart and soul into this. Comedians that pratfalls and they break their backs, but just for the laugh they'll do something. And to me, passionate people, doesn't really matter what it is. You could, my wife's a great cook, and I watch her cook, and can I help you? And she almost throws knives at me. So get out of my kitchen. and so, but she's passionate about what she does, and and so anybody that shows passion about their involvement in their lives, whether it's the love of their children or their academics or what have you, to me it just lights me up.
Yeah, resonates with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Hanshi, how about for you? What inspires you?
I'll tell you something. I have 6 grandkids. I think guys like that have been close to me for a long time, they can read me like a book, because I'm open on everything. There's no second agenda with me. There's no secret. I call a spade, and sometimes I should not. Or if I feel that it's something I don't have anything good to say, I won't say it. I'll just walk away. You know what I mean? So, but I look at my grandchildren, and my wife said to my grandchildren, they call me Papi, which is a French Thurman, which means grandfather. So they call me Papi, and they've known me as Papi. But as they get older, they discovered a little bit what Papi does. Then they get older and they Google my name and they see everything that's happening. And they're more or less in baseball, and they are extremely good. So for me, it's to spend time with my grandchildren. I give you an example. One of the boys, his name is Camden. He's 17. But when he was about 10 years old, he came to Ottawa. They live in the GTA. So he comes to Ottawa, spends a week with me. I brought him to the Parliament building, and they've got the eternal fire there, the flame. And around that is cement. And on those cement going around, there's a date like 1967. Well, that's when the Confederation was signed and acclaimed. So we go around, and I see one place, and it says, for some reason, 1949. So I said, Camden, come here. This is the most important year for you in your life, is 1949. And he said, why, Papi? Because that's the year I'm born. So if I'm not born, you're not here, right? So the good times, the little time with that. And I have a granddaughter who is 11 years old, and she's a phenom in baseball. I tell you, I'm speaking as a grandfather, but as an athlete, I can tell you, she made Team Ontario for 16U a few weeks ago, played in the national championship against girls 16 and 17. She's 11. Yeah. She won MVP of one game, the Golden Glove for another game. So when I watch her, because I'm a fan, I'm the grandfather, but I'm a fan of what they're doing and when they become the best. And I look at her and I say, yeah, that's exactly what Jean-Yves Theriault did. She trains, she loves baseball, so she loves to practice. And I'm in the gym where Jean-Yves has his dojo, and there's a gym called the Gladiator Gym. And so many elite, young 16 to 18-year-old athlete, hockey, baseball, javelin throwers, lacrosse. I mean, the list goes on, and they train there. And I take one kid, and he's quiet, and he's training really hard, doing his workout. And I pull him aside, and I said, you see that photo over there? Yeah. You know who that is? No. That's Jean-Yves Theriault, the Iceman. Then I tell him his his record and how well that he did. And the guy's, wow. So that kid, I tell him, I said, you're another Jean-Yves Theriault. He said, I'm not a fighter. He said, it's not about fighting. You train hard to become very good in your sport. And these kids are going to be drafted. They're going to be playing in the NHL. But the beauty of what I said for these kids, they go home, they said, hey, there's a guy there called the Iceman. The father said, really? Can I go and see him and have a photo with him? And, so it's the next generation. But for me, it's to look at no matter, today I'm at Starbucks. I'm there to pick up a coffee. There's about 12 schoolgirls in front of me waiting for whatever they ordered. So I have to wait. But there's a young woman, very well dressed, who's sitting at a table. And there's another woman who walks in with a baby in her arm. And that woman sitting at the table must have been around 40. She says, excuse me, madame, you can have my seat. Okay. And the woman with the baby said, no, I have to go to the bathroom to change my baby, but thank you. I went to see that lady and I said, I really appreciate what you did. You got class, because we forget these days how to pass forward respect, how to help your neighbor, how to do this, how to do that. When I was a kid, I could name you on one block, everybody that lived on that block. Life was slower, life was different. Certain things were better, certain things sucked compared to today. Today is much better. So all of that, to me, is what inspires me, is to, I hope to live at least another 15 years, 20 years. My youngest grandchild is 10. So I'd like to see what they're doing in life, what's going to be their job and what's going to be their family. So that inspires me to stay nice, stay in shape, and go and see them. And I got to make Jean-Yves work for my 100th birthday, so I'm working on that.
I'm selling tickets already, John.
Yeah, well, put me down for one or two for sure.
There you go. See, I told you it would work, Jean-Yves.
So, again, gentlemen, really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Is there anything that you want to add that we haven't already covered? I know you got some pretty major events coming up in the next little bit. I can put the links to the Capital Conquest and so on in the description for this video when it's posted. But is there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't covered?
Go ahead,
Champ. If you do put for Capital Conquest, put capitalconquest.org, and on that website they've got all the information. But what a lot of people are coming for the training, but it opens Friday night with the young guys doing kickboxing. And Jean-Yves is one thing, he's a good matchmaker. He makes sure that everybody's fairly well matched and they step in the ring, so it's good action. And just before that is a meet and greet. It's where, Charles, you come in and you're going to meet some of the, you mentioned Wally Slokey, and you mentioned Randy Dauphin, and I mentioned Alain Sailly, and we mentioned Cesar Borkowski and Jean-Yves. We're all there, and there's only about 75 to 100 of us. And people walk in, and it's like a school reunion. And then we go, Jean-Yves does his magic with all those great fighters. We cheer them all on. There's no losers. They're all in there to entertain, and then there's training. So that weekend and the Saturday night gala is the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame, the most prestigious martial arts event in the country. And I'll tell you why. You cannot buy your way in. You can't. Jean-Yves and I put this together in Ottawa on behalf of the board. And when we do it, it's going to cost us about 10 grand of free tickets for the people that's already in the Hall of Fame that will attend, because they never pay. You come in once, you never pay. And the people going in. But you see, it's our time to say thank you to the pioneers, thank you to the champions, and thank you for what everybody's done. So that is what's coming up November 4, 5, and 6. And in closing, I always love to see everybody there, and throughout the year, whenever we go places.
I'll certainly second that, John. The event itself is the premier martial art event of the year in this country. Me personally, martial arts is, a passion for me as it is you, and I'm sure some of our listeners. But the camaraderie, the people that I see that I've been bumping into for the last 20 years or 30 years, that we just don't see each other so much. A couple of times a year, I really, really enjoy and making new friends, of course, and looking at the white belts that are stepping on the mat for the first time, and it's like going to high school, grade 9 for the first time, and there's some grade 12 big shots and stuff like that, and these little, and you don't know what's in store for you. This is probably going to change your life in one way or the other. One thing that I wanted to ask to mention, Charles and John, is that I do apologize for not attending our scheduled podcast last week. I know that we were scheduled to do this 1 week ago, but I do apologize for that, and I appreciate your graciousness in accepting to reschedule.
Oh, well, absolutely no need for an apology. It's, the pleasure is completely mine, to speak with both of you. And this has been, a real special thrill for me and a privilege to have you both participate in what I'm calling my humble effort to capture some of, our martial arts history, and especially knowing how busy you both are, it's a real honor for me to get to speak with both of you at the same time. And, I can only say thank you sincerely for speaking with me today. And I look forward to the opportunity to maybe, hopefully, thanking you in person sometime soon. So really appreciate both your time and all that you've done for martial arts in the country. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Charles. You're very kind, and for the kind words, and obviously, sitting in with my friend John is always a pleasure. So thank you, and I'm sure that we're going to see you soon.
I hope so.
All right.
All right.
Good luck, and keep up the good work, Charles. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.